Just coming back to Brisbane, why are the nightly A380 departures from Brisbane overland unable to stick to the published standard instrument departure track and modelled heights for noise abatement?
That's a question I'd have to take on. Pardon me, that's a question I'd have to take on notice. I'm not aware that the A380 in particular, or which particular airline's operations you're referring to. It is the case that we endeavour wherever weather and traffic permits to operate in a mode that I've referred in this committee before to SOD-prop, simultaneous opposite direction parallel runway operations, which puts arrivals and departures over the bay. Wherever possible, that is the mode that we seek to operate in, sensitive times of day, night time and weekends. So to the extent that A380 operations occur overland, it would be because it was not possible to operate in that mode over the bay. And then as to the specific tracking of a flight on a given day, there's a myriad of considerations. There can be weather factors, there could be a range of factors, and so it'd be difficult for me to give a precise answer other than to take on notice. Perhaps we can provide some data around that particular operation. If you could be more precise on the time that the flight takes, we can then look into that.
All right, so on notice, could you please provide a report of how often aircraft are not flying the published SIDs across Brisbane and not meeting the published model overflight heights for the last 12 months?
Senator, I think we can do that on notice. As I say, there will be instances where that's due to weather and other matters.
Yep, so if you could just provide that on notice, that would be great. It's my understanding that Airservices Australia has stated that Brisbane is the last priority for the introduction of continuous descent operations. Is that correct?
No, Senator, that's not correct. My understanding is that we're endeavouring to introduce continuous descent operations at a higher altitude. I can provide some more explanation on that in a moment, should you wish. In the course of the next 12 to 18 months, some of the factors that go to the timing of that are the package 3 and 4 changes we talked about earlier. We need to design those flight paths, those standard arrival routes, in a way so that a continuous descent arrival or operation is practical. We've been conducting a trial in Melbourne for some time and seeking to learn how we can best manage the flows of traffic. CDO, continuous descent operations, are difficult to implement in busy times at busy airports because the essential premise behind a CDO is that aircraft will not be vectored, moved around. The energy of the aircraft will not be managed by the air traffic controller, it will be managed by the flight management system, and that allows a thrust idle arrival, which has the benefit of reduced CO2 as well as reduced noise for communities. It is difficult to do during busy periods. I'm not aware of any airport in the world that successfully implements this procedure on a permanent basis. Hence, we're trying to understand how we can implement it in Melbourne and then moving to other airports. Brisbane's planned for the next 12 to 18 months.
Which airport has the highest number of noise complaints in the country?
Highest number of noise complaints today is Brisbane. The highest number of complainants would also be Brisbane.
Yes, because my understanding is that the noise complaints for Brisbane are higher than all the other airports put together. So I guess there's some confusion as to why Brisbane isn't the number one priority and why you've chosen to prioritise Melbourne over Brisbane.
Senator, we tend to we obviously look at complaint numbers. We also look at complainants. It is the case that there is a substantial amount of complaints made by a relatively small number of complainants in a couple of cases across the country, which does skew that data, which is why we look at complainants, importantly. That's not to suggest Brisbane's not a priority, though.
So you're suggesting that are you saying there are less people complaining in Brisbane more often?
I'm not saying there are less people. I'm saying that I can give you the stats precisely if you wish.
Your comment was, there are some places that have a small number of complainants.
For example, Senator, there's an individual complainant in Perth that complained 20,000 times in the course of 2023. The metric alone of complaints or contacts wouldn't drive us to necessarily implement CDO in Perth as a priority. We need to balance out the considerations.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, if there are some people who are at the end of their tether and complaining a lot, that's factored in.
Senator, it's factored in insofar as we try to take a compassionate approach to our communities where we have individuals that are clearly in distress. If you're making a great number of complaints that are typically significant concerns that the individual holds, we have particular procedures in place where we seek to engage with them, access our employee assistance program to provide support, as well as to understand their complaints in particular. It is the case that a number of those who are complaining the greatest are in positions that they typically live in locations that are runway aligned, and there is relatively little that Airservices can do about amending flight paths that extend from the runway centre line out, because aircraft need to join final or need to depart broadly in the direction on which they take off.
Mm-hmm. This is a follow-up from committee question number 41. In additional estimates 2023-24 regarding the number of air traffic controllers required in Airservices Terminal Control Unit in Brisbane. Airservices' response was that Brisbane operations require 39 air traffic controllers in Airservices Terminal Control Unit to provide full service, and Airservices plans to have 46 controllers allocated to this airspace by July 2024. How many air traffic controllers are available in the Brisbane Terminal Control Unit right now?
Senator, I'll ask my colleague, Mr. Craig Charker, to see if he's able to answer that question. Or
I'll have to take that one on notice for the exact number for now, so yes.
Okay, I'm somewhat surprised that needs to be taken on notice, given that you were asked that question at the last estimates. I would have thought that was an obvious question that would be asked again. Because I also want to know, where is the recruitment, onboarding and training program up to in Brisbane? Are you able to answer that question?
I don't have the details with me of the exact training program that's being undertaken at the moment, but we can get that to you.
Do you take that on notice, please? So I guess you can't answer whether the aspiration of 46 air traffic controllers, which is a month's time, is likely to be reached for Brisbane?
I don't think we'll achieve 46 in that time frame, but I'll come back to those.
Are you able to expand for me? I mean, you said in answer to my earlier question you're not sure how many there are. You've now just told me that you don't think we're going to achieve 46. So, what is that based on? What is your assumption around how many are there now? Is it more than 39?
So my understanding was where, and I don't want to do the exact number, around 43 total air traffic controllers there against that mature requirement of 39. That's my understanding.
Okay, all right. Well, if you can take the broader questions that I've asked on notice, that would be helpful. The Commonwealth Ombudsman is conducting a multiple complaints investigation into the department's failure to provide regulatory oversight over Airservices Australia. In that, I'm relating to file number 2023-713825. Has the Commonwealth Ombudsman contacted Airservices Australia about their investigation?
Senator, yes, they have. I can just run you through the process that we've had with the Commonwealth Ombudsman. On the 22nd of December 2023, the Commonwealth Ombudsman received a complaint from the Brisbane Flight Path Community Alliance. On the 12th of January 2024, the Ombudsman met with the Department of Infrastructure in relation to that complaint, and then subsequently with us on the 23rd of January this year. We had an initial discussion with them regarding that complaint. Very recently, on the 21st of May, the Commonwealth Ombudsman has written to us, advised that they were opening a Section 8 investigation as a result of the complaint from the Brisbane Flight Path Community Alliance, and we've been asked to respond by the 10th of June. Okay, so have you responded yet? Not yet, Senator, no. Okay, so that's in process. All right, thank you. I think I'll leave it there.